when you are creating all of the tool paths for creating this box, you're basically going to be using two different operations. The first one is a 2D pocket, and what that does is it clears out all of the material on the inside of a shape. And so in this case, the highlighted area is going to be all cleared out. So this is a pocket. The other thing we're going to be using is a 2D contour, and that's when you want to go around a shape. So now I've got this highlighted shape that I'm going to have the mill move around. And I usually start from the inside out, but it doesn't really matter what operation you do. Generally, though, you want to think about how you can leave as much of this space right here whenever you're doing an operation as possible. And so I'm going to start with the 2D pocket. I think that's going to work better for us. For the tool, there are ways to set up tools for us. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go and find one of my within my sample libraries, my inch, and I'm using this aluminum one. And I'm going to look and try to find not a drill. There's a lot of drills. I'm going to scroll way down to find a flat mill. And I'm going to find one with a 3/8 inch diameter. And as you can see, it has a long cutting edge right here. That tells me that I'm not going to get a weird error whenever I create this. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to make sure I have the tool that is correct for our operation. And so that's not a big deal. So just selecting, aluminum, inch, that 3/8 flat end mill. Make sure you have that flat mill. That's kind of what we're using. And the coolant, we actually don't have a coolant, so we're going to turn that off. The spindle speed, for us, we're actually going to use 3000. And our surface speed, we want to make sure we change as well. That should be about 30. And I've done the calculations for that. And then for our ramp, again, we're going to change it to 30. Our cutting feed rate, we're going to do 30. Oh, this is ramp spindle speed. They've changed some operations. So we want spindle speed to be 3000. We won't worry about the surface speed. It's the cutting feed rate and the lead-in feed rate. And basically all of these feed rates we're going to change to 30, except for our plunge. Our plunge feed rate is going to be half of our feed rate, so it's actually going to be 15 for our purposes right here, and that should work for us. So spindle speed 3000, switch down to the feed rates and do 30, feed rate 30, lead-in feed rate 30, ramp feed rate 30, plunge feed rate 15, and everything else will stay the same. It automatically is adjusted for you. The geometry, this is where we actually select what we want. So that red cursor means that we need to select our actual pocket. If you had numerous pockets, let's say that there were two different spaces you're going to clear out the inside for, you could select those at this point, but for this box we're just going to do the one right here. I'm going to take a look. We don't need to worry about the stock contours, the rest machining we don't need to worry about, the wrap toolpath we don't need, and the orientation of the tool is going to be the same as we have. All of our heights we tend to keep the same, and then from there we're looking and seeing, and one thing we want to do, we want to select multiple depths, and then our maximum roughing step down is going to be half of our tool diameter. So I do 3/16, and what that should do, expand that window a little bit, is give me 0.1875. You can also type in 0.1875, but make sure that you've selected and gotten rid of all of your decimals because you don't want that any smaller than that. The other thing we want to do is we actually want to remove our stock to leave. We do not want any stock to be left at the end of this. That just makes it so that the parts will not fit what you've designed. The next step right here has to do with linking and transitions, and these parts we don't actually need to worry about, but the ramp we do. And so whenever we have this, we actually just want to plunge. Our ramp wants to be plunged. This is one where if we kept it as a helix, it would create this really long operation, because the helix takes just shy of forever to do. So we actually want to leave it to plunge. And if I see yours starts to do that helix, I'm actually going to stop the operation and require that you redo these operations. So those are the operations you're going to do for a pocket. And you can see the pocket right there. Ideally, you will see that there is the toolpath into the part, something that moves around and clears everything out, and then the toolpath outside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make that 2D contour. And again, we're going to kind of go from the left tab all the way to the right. If we don't need to change things, we won't change it. In this case, the tool from our last operation is the one selected here. So we don't actually need to make any changes because we already did that in our previous operation. If we do make changes, let's say you forgot to put to change the spindle speed or any of those feed rates, you will have to manually go through each and every one and just double check that everything is correct. The next one, we're going to select that geometry. So this time I'm going to select this outer shape because that's what it's going to actually be cutting around. None of the rest of the stuff we have to worry about. The heights we're not going to worry about either. Generally the one you do worry about is the bottom height, but it's already the selected contour. That's the lowest you want it to go, and so it's all good. Our passes, this is where we have, we're going to take a look and we're going to actually make sure that multiple depths is selected again, and that we have 0.1875 or 3/16, half of our tool diameter. And what that does is it makes sure that we have the multiple depths actually happening. It saves the tool. It's a lot easier on the machine and the tool. It's less likely to break when it's actually traveling around this portion here. The next one, we have linking, leads in and transition, and ramps. This one doesn't actually do the helix. The contour doesn't do the helix, so we don't have to worry about that. And so what we should be able to do is hit OK. And let's see. So if I select contour 2, it plunges straight in at a depth, mills around, plunges straight in, mills around, plunges straight in, mills around. And so it looks like we have a good operation there. If we click on the setup itself, we can actually, so click on setup, click on simulate. If we click on stock right here, it's going to show us what our stock looks like, and it gives you a fun little animation of the actual operation. And so if it's incorrect there, it's going to be incorrect when it machines. We don't worry about these little tabs that are left over because we're just going to break those off really quickly, and there you go.